Okay. All right. So it's good to see you again, Felicia. I know it's been about a week since our last session, so I wanted to catch up with you and see what's going on. We got about 30 minutes here today, so let me know what's been happening, how you've been feeling.
Um, okay. This time of year is always a little iffy for me. Uh, this is around the time when I got in my accident, kind of traveling and going to go see friends and family. So it's always a little rough thinking about that time and just being aware, which makes me more anxious than I am probably the rest of the year time. So
Well, that's understandable. Perhaps you can tell me, like, kind of what draws up those feelings. Is it, now that you're in recovery, what about this year is different?
I mean, one like it's a very different place. I mean, this year is probably it's been almost probably a year since with everything that happened, trying to just kind of stay focused and not relapse again. But again, like this time of year is hard. Like seeing, with the spikes in traveling, it's just flashbacks of having to deal with that, and then worrying that if God forbid I should get in another accident, then I'm putting myself back in that position of deciding, do I take the medicine to get better and risk falling harder, or do I just try to strive through it, which, if depending on the injury, is damn near impossible. And then it's just wanting to see family, but not knowing if it's really good to see them, to put them through the stress because they know what's going on, but they don't know always the extent. Um, they know I relapsed. They don't know how hard. They know that I'm in recovery. So
Okay. All right. So the biggest struggle I'm hearing is deciding whether or not it's ideal to go see your family for the holiday again, because your anxiety is already high about traveling, and you recognize that this time of year people are out and about and you can't really avoid others. So the concern is more so not the part that you play in it, but maybe someone else causing something to harm you.
right, like I can't control it. I can be as cautious as I want to be, but I can't control what other people are doing and their reactions. And then, I mean, I miss my family. Like holidays used to be my favorite time. Like I got to see them, we got to hang out. It was fun. It actually brought my anxiety lower because I'm being more around people that I know and that I'm comfortable with. But then after all this happened, it was the exact opposite
Mm-hmm.
because they can tell the change. They see the change. I can't hide that from them, and it's not a piece that I necessarily want to have in the forefront.
Okay. So on the one hand, you want to be around your loved ones because that's going to make you feel better, and on the other hand, you're concerned about going around them because they'll see the change in you from the relapse, and that you're now in recovery, but they don't know how well it's going.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, then let's think about this. So, why would it be so important for you to go see your family?
One, I mean, I miss them, and I know that they miss me. Um, I have kids that I haven't seen in a while, and they want to see their mom. That's important, and I want them to also see that I'm doing better. I mean, I'm not, at 100%, and that's going to take a while, and I'm not in adrenaline thinking that that's the case. But then also to see them and then have to be away from them again, it's hard because it's the separation all over again, which I don't want to continue to do until I know that I can be there 100% and 100% healthy and not have as many struggles.
Okay. Well, that's understandable. Again, you're concerned with causing damage to your children and your loved ones by, coming around, and you want to be consistent, is what I'm hearing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's think about what are some ways that you can do that. You're already in recovery. So that's the first piece. How can you create consistency between you and your loved ones going forward?
I could probably try to reach out to them more often, whether it be via phone or just writing them, because I know sometimes the face to face is a little hard, but
Okay.
Actually talking to them on the phone or just writing to them could probably help, because at least if I'm not there, they can kind of feel a little bit of the presence.
Okay.
Even though it may not be
That's a
physical.
good point. Okay. Are you allowed any physical visits at the facility? Is that an option?
I've actually never inquired about it, so I don't know.
Okay.
I think it probably depends on the level that I'm at and how much like that kind of freedom that they're willing to let me have.
Okay.
But I don't know 100% if that's an option. But I also don't know that I would want them here. It would be more about me going to see them, because I don't really want them in the facility.
Okay. So that's not necessarily something you're open to.
If that's the only way, then possibly, but that wouldn't be my go-to.
Okay. All right, that's fair enough. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with, like right now, how comfortable are you going to see your family? Just like, not even for the holiday, but just for a regular visit?
About a 6.
Okay.
Like, I'm not opposed to it. It's just, I get like excited about it, but then as it gets closer to thinking about the actual like planning and the actual going, that is where it kind of spikes a little of like, is this a good idea? Is it worth the risk? Is it worth the emotional toll?
Okay.
That type of thing.
So you said a 6. Why not a 4?
Because I think my wanting to see them in that part outweighs the kind of concern and anxiety that I feel. But at the same time, it's a significant portion where it has stopped me from going previously.
Okay. All right. So in what ways can our meetings and things that you do in recovery help you get past the 6?
I guess more so it's just kind of talking about the steps that I need to take in order to feel more comfortable. Okay. And then probably it's going to be a combination of like just reaching out to my family to find out what they can do in there, and also to make it a more comfortable experience and visit.
Okay.
So there's not unnecessary triggers or, you know, unnecessary situations that arise while I'm there or in preparation for it.
Okay. Do you feel like, or who do you feel like is a trigger for you in your family? And what is it that they do that triggers you?
Sometimes just random arguments. Like, we all have very big personalities and opinions, so just sometimes little things will trigger an argument between me and my brother, just because we're siblings. We argue anyway, but I mean, I'm not in the best place to say this, but the way that he lives his lifestyle, I don't necessarily agree with, but obviously the way that I've lived my lifestyle in the past year or so is not, the best. I can't pass judgment on it, but arguing about that and bringing it up is always a trigger, and it always usually comes up because that's kind of the way it goes.
Well, it's good that you have some accountability on your part. You recognize the part that you play in it. So what can you do different? Because we can't control other people. We can only control ourselves. So what do you feel like you can do different in those particular situations, because they can also act as coping skills?
I mean, I hate to say it, but like kind of having to watch what I say and how the conversation goes. Okay. Because asking not to say too many questions, but getting too in depth into what's going on. Okay. Well, obviously I'm gonna have an opinion because he has kids of his own. I'm gonna have an opinion on that and how they're living, but those type of conversations will lead to backlash on me and how I live and how that has affected my own children, and that's bound to spark an argument, which then makes my mom upset, makes everybody else uncomfortable, and
So who is your go-to person in when you're around family and you guys are in kind of like that intimate setting? If you feel like you're being triggered or your senses just kind of get heightened, who is that person that you would go to in that moment to kind of talk it out or help bring you down?
Usually my sister, because she's the calmer one of the group.
Okay.
But she usually can tell when we're starting to get kind of escalated and elevated, and she usually tries to kind of calm everybody down and decompress it and make it more light and less serious.
Okay.
Just intervening and stuff like that. But right now, that's not really an option. She's not around right now. She's dealing with her own stuff because she is now incarcerated. So she won't be around for this particular holiday, and I'm not exactly sure when she'll be returning.
Okay. That's unfortunate to hear. Do we have a second go-to person who might not be at the top of the list, but maybe right under?
Right now, not really, just because I've kind of kept everything kind of very like in a more smaller circle as far as what's going on, and we're all pretty, I guess, not say closed off, but more private in the things that we talk about and what we want to release.
Okay.
So not having her available has been difficult.
Okay.
In itself.
So then, how have your NA meetings? How have your NA meetings been going?
They've been okay. They've been good. Just getting a chance to talk about it, and they've promoted just like writing stuff down and setting goals and kind of keeping focused on how achieving those goals and making sure that we know that, well, making sure that I know that going in the opposite direction isn't going to help me achieve my goals, isn't going to help me continue to recover and ultimately be able to have a stable environment for my children so that they can be back with me and not with family.
Okay. Have you tried to mix and mingle as we discussed, last time, kind of like before the meetings and after? Because I know you mentioned you would be open to a sponsor, but we weren't quite there yet.
I've talked to a couple people, probably not as many as I should, but I've talked to a couple just trying to feel the situation out. As we talked about, like, bringing people in is not necessarily in my strong suit. I don't open up to that many people and sharing what's going on, and I get that, the sponsors may have also been through some more stuff, but it's just a little more difficult for me.
What would make you receptive to a sponsor? Like, what would be your number one trait or characteristic that would make you say, you know what, this is a good person. I like it here. This is nice. How can we move forward in that relationship?
I guess one that's not too pushy, and that kind of understands that, like, I'm probably gonna release information on my own or in a trickle and not in a waterfall.
Okay.
Because that's just not gonna be a thing.
That is a good analogy, by the way.
Nice. And understands that, and then understands also that, like, since I have relapsed before, like, I have I'm trying to have a strong focus on things to not do, and I may not decide to do some of the things that I tried to do in recovery previously. I may not do this time because obviously they didn't work out. And so not so much like I understand suggestions, but that also understands that, like, I'm probably not going to take all of their suggestions, and for them to be okay with that, because even though they're a sponsor, and if we went down that road, that I obviously want their help, but I also they can't do it for me, so I still want to have very much control over the decisions and the choices and the options. And
okay, that's fair. That's actually not unreasonable at all. Can you kind of tell me, are you able to recognize now, because I know it was a little harder when we first started, but are you able to recognize exactly what led to your relapse last time?
I think a lot of it had to do with me thinking that I was more in control than I was.
Okay.
Trying to do more things than I was really prepared to do and not understanding the situations and consequences that may arise from it.
Okay.
Um, I don't, not a huge fan of, which is funny considering my drug choice. I'm not a huge fan of medication because of their addictive qualities, which led me in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, as part of my recovery, the recommendations for other medications to help kind of, I guess, curb, if you want to say,
Mm-hmm.
don't really appeal to me because that seems like moving from one addiction to another. And I think that's part of why I kind of ended up backsliding.
Okay.
Because being dependent on one thing and then moving to another dependency isn't going to solve or help what's happening.
Okay. So your preference is to do this on your own with no medication maintenance, such as like Vivitrol or Suboxone. Like you want to be fully clean.
Ideally, yes.
Okay, that's commendable. Some people, they don't have the willpower to be able to do that. So I support you in that decision. So what are the consequences that you were able to recognize? If you can give me at least two consequences of your drug use.
The main one, family. Like my children are with me, and I miss them every day.
Mm-hmm.
And not being able to see them and show them that I love and support them. And then two, I guess I'd say more so. I mean, probably work. We kind of talked about. I had a really good job, and I was doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of, when I got in the accident, obviously they were very supportive, but when I didn't come back, it kind of, it kind of soured that relationship. And I'm very big on my independence and not being able to kind of live the lifestyle that I was living prior to the accident because of losing that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of made things worse.
Okay. So, just to make sure I understand correctly, your biggest motivators are your children,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to live life comfortably like you used to.
Yes.
But what you're struggling with at this current time is making that transition from just being in recovery to getting back with family and including them in your journey and deciding how deep you want to let them in. Does that sound about right?
Yes, because I know that ultimately they're going to have to know in order for them to be helpful and to understand and to know what things to include me in and not to include me in. I'm going to have to let them know some of my triggers and what those things have led to. Mm-hmm. But also, I want to shield them from it because it's not a pretty picture. It's not, the situation itself is not pretty. But also, like, they know that I'm very independent, so they know that I miss being able to do things when I want to, and how I want to do them, and up to the quality that I do them.
Right.
And they know that that part has also been a huge struggle.
Okay. So are you comfortable with looking for work again, or have you started?
I did start because that has been a big thing, because I think if I'm working, it'll take my mind off. And so lately I've been just trying to find activities that'll take my mind off of things.
Okay.
So trying to, the biggest thing, looking for work that's going to keep me busy, and then also trying to get healthier. So I've been trying to work out more to strengthen. Okay. So because I lost a lot of muscle mass from the accident, and so doing that to keep me kind of focused. And idle hands are the devil's playground. So the more I have to do, the less I have time for my thoughts and boredom to wander and take over.
Okay. How's your meditation been going?
Good. I think I'm gotten more into it. I think one of the things that I've incorporated along with meditation is trying to do more yoga, um, because it uses a lot of the same techniques, um, as far as like the breathing and the focusing, because you usually do that before and after each session to kind of find your center, as they would call it. So just trying to do those things. One of the people that I actually did talk to out at the NA meeting, they also do yoga, so they've given me um, some options and some places that are actually kind of focused on people that are in recovery.
Oh.
And they kind of can do the exercises together.
Okay.
So,
well, that's great. I've never heard of that. Maybe if you give it a try, you come back and let me know how it went, and I can use it as a resource for some other people.
For sure.
That's nice. Okay. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit. What went well the last time you were in recovery? Like, what do you feel like went really good?
I did feel better. As far as like mentally, I was feeling strong.
Okay.
And I think the feeling strong allowed me to kind of want to focus on the next steps. But I think that kind of also was the downfall, because I was feeling better, I was approaching the steps a lot faster than I should. It was like I would feel really good, for a week, and then I was like, okay, well, if I feel so good, I can go out and do this. But then going out and doing some of those things kind of put me in situations that were more mentally taxing than I thought that they would be.
Okay. So what different approach have you considered this time?
Not just, I guess, the feeling, but like coming into our sessions and just trying to be open and understanding that, you gotta walk before you run. So even though I may feel like running today, tomorrow may not be a running day.
Okay.
So, kind of just easing myself into things instead of running full force. I tend to do that, and obviously that's not what worked out well for me the last time.
Okay.
And I think part of it, like I said, was, I did the medicine the last time, and I wasn't kind of aware of the effects that it would have on me personally, as far as mentally. I think for me, being mentally strong is very important, and I think even though it wasn't necessarily a drug for clouding my judgment, it still was clouded because I think I felt a lot better. I think I thought I felt a lot better than I actually was.
Okay. So it sounds like you're very you're more self-aware this go around, and that's really good. You're intuitive, and I think that's going to be your strong point going forward. So as far as your coping skills, I believe that you can continue to build those. So like your meditation is your coping skill. Our sessions is a good coping skill for you. Let's talk about some aftermath coping skills, like being able to reflect after something took place so that you can be able to not be in those situations necessarily next time. So not necessarily impulse control, but just knowing what you can and can't do. So like last time you said you put yourself in situations faster than you really should have. So are you able to remember exactly what those situations were?
I think one in particular is I was looking for jobs into, and some of the companies that I was looking for, they were very big on just kind of like seeing how you mesh with the other employees. So they, as part of their, not necessarily interview process, but part of their selection process, was to like have everybody who was up for the position to go to these dinners and mixers so that they could interact with the different bosses and the teammates and kind of ask questions, which in theory sounds really great. You get to meet people and kind of show them what you have to offer, but also these are people that I don't know, which is also an anxious, it's just anxiety driven altogether. And then also there's, there's substances around. It's more so, alcohol with just the casual drinking, but other people are into different things. So there were, after the events, you've made those semi kind of smaller relationships, and they're like, oh, well, you should, some of those people are like, oh, we're going to this place afterwards. So now we've moved away from the work sanctioned or company sanctioned to more private sanctions, and people are a lot more open.
Right.
Which is really what caused the trigger, because it's like, I don't want to say no to going to meet these people because these are the people that could be offering me the job.
Right.
But at the same time, kind of hindsight's 2020, I didn't need to go to those after events because that wasn't a part of the selection process. I think if I made enough of an impression to the way where they felt comfortable for me to go, then I probably made a good enough impression for me to get the job without having to go.
Okay.
So I think that is kind of like my biggest takeaway. Like, I think I went into it knowing that that was a possibility and thinking that I was strong enough at the time to be able to combat it. And again, the feeling like I could run before I was really walking was the biggest thing, because I think it wasn't maybe even a full month afterwards.
Okay.
So
a little quick.
Yeah.
A little quick. Okay, so if you were placed into one of those situations now, in what way would you go about it differently? For example, if you had another interview and, you had to attend one of those mixers, the larger mixers, to mix and mingle with people, and then afterwards you were invited to go to a more intimate setting, how would you handle that now?
I think it probably just finding, I won't say a believable excuse, but a believable excuse. Saying no because I have an appointment in the morning that I need to go to, or maybe saying that there's, a session or something, just a prior engagement that doesn't allow for me to go, or saying that maybe my ride isn't able to go, so declining, obviously in a respectful manner that's believable, but without kind of letting them know my situation.
Okay, so we're not at that vulnerable stage where we're able to disclose, what's going on. But again, in that particular setting, that's okay. That's not necessarily somewhere where you come out and you're just like, well, I have a substance abuse issue, so that's probably not a great idea.
Yeah, especially not having a job yet, it just doesn't seem like it'd be a good option. And I know that some employers are more sensitive than others and may be okay with it, but I wouldn't disclose that before knowing and truly knowing that, because that's also one of my biggest fears, is not getting the job of my dreams because I've now put myself in this situation.
Okay. And that's a fair concern. Again, being able to be vulnerable with people, that's a huge step, but you have to do that. We have to be aware to know that there's a right time and a right place. So the fact that you recognize that is great. I think you want to I think you should be more vulnerable with your family first. I think that's the bigger part, and you want to start there, and that could lead you to be more comfortable to disclose it in an appropriate manner to those who are not as close, without jeopardizing any opportunities that come your way. So let's kind of go over your successes, right? So you've been in recovery before, and you did build some skills there, but you're reflective enough to recognize you probably did a little more than you should have last time. So you'll go about doing it differently this time and being more aware of your triggers and what it is that you're okay with and what you're not. You've actively started looking for work, so that's great. Do you have any interviews lined up?
I have one at the end of next week, and then 2 more the following week.
Okay, great. That's nice. I didn't get any interviews that quickly. So that's great. So, how do you intend to prepare for those interviews?
The facility has a couple workshops that I plan on attending to kind of help me with interview prep and skills and reviewing my resume. My resume before all this wasn't bad by any means. And I have the educational background, so I'm not worried about meeting the qualifications. It's just more, presenting myself as a good package. So
Okay. So your confidence level, kind of where are we at on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 10?
So out of the 3 that I have the interviews for, 2 of them I'm fairly confident that I would get a second interview. One of them, I'm not gonna lie, is I'm reaching. I think I made some of the basic qualifications, but not everything that they're looking for. So I think the interview process for that particular job is going to be really what kind of determines how everything proceeds.
Okay.
But I think from a 1 to 10 ratio, probably about a 7 or 8 for the first 2, and then the third one I'm probably about a 6.
Okay. All right, that's not bad at all. So are there any ways that I can assist you in kind of boosting that confidence level, when you're getting ready for it?
If you would love to take a look at my resume, that'd be great.
Okay.
More eyes. I'm not opposed to more eyes on a resume.
Okay.
But that's probably just the biggest things. Any suggestions or feedback you have are welcome.
Okay, great. So we're ready, we're prepping, we're getting there for the interview. As far as family, preparing to spend time with them, our coping skills, where are we at with those?
I'm still working on it. I haven't fully decided whether or not I'm actually going to go.
Okay.
I already kind of prepped my mom and told her that I didn't know if I was coming in, just so that she wasn't overly hopeful.
Okay.
And I did have her tell, my children that I wanted to see them, but wasn't sure
Okay.
if I was going to make the travel.
Okay.
And I did talk to them a little bit about it, so that they kind of were prepared and weren't kind of taken aback and not disappointed or super sad about it, which kind of made me feel better because it feels like they're getting a little older now, so they don't understand fully what's going on, but they kind of know that I have, that I was sick and kind of maybe not fully well enough to make the travel.
Okay.
Which made me feel a little bit better.
Okay. Well, communication is key. So the fact that you've been able to at least communicate exactly how you're feeling in this moment and, doing it enough so that other people are not disappointed, you're keeping yourself in mind as well as everyone else, that's a really good thing, because some people can't even find the strength to communicate those things. So you've come far in being able to say exactly how you're feeling without any reservation. So that's a great big step. So going forward, we'll meet again next week. We can do so prior to your interview if you'd like me to look at your resume. Continue communicating with family and continue your coping skills, your meditation, and your meetings. Okay, because I feel like all of these things, you're making all the right steps. You're putting yourself in the position to be able to have long-lasting recovery, and that's the goal here. Have you checked in with your doctor?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually have a follow-up appointment with him next month.
Okay, everything good with blood work? We're not having any withdrawal symptoms or anything of that nature?
No.
Okay, very good. So we'll meet again next Thursday around 2. Does that work for you?
Can we push it to 3?
We can do 3. My afternoon's pretty open that day. But you know, if you have any changes, just let me know, and we'll go through that. But I think we're good for today, unless you have anything else to talk about.
No, can I use your computer to print out my resume?
You sure can. All right, thank you.